Welcome to the Modern Sports Show, home of your modern sports takes. We're back with another video tonight. Tonight we have a very special topic, something that's really transcending all of college football right now, especially with everything taking place with Alabama, with Washington, Michigan, the whole landscape. So I want to give an honest take. I want to give an honest opinion, an authentic take that I have on the transfer portal, okay? And that is coming from a place of sincerity and also coming from a place of middle ground, right? Because I empathize with the student athlete and I sympathize with the coaches, right? And how each one of those entities has a vested interest in the outcome of players entering and leaving the portal. So I want to preface my soliloquy, I guess, by stating I went to 5 different colleges. Now, early in my collegiate career, I was a little misled and misguided by how college football worked, right? I come from a very small town, and there are not many people from where I'm from that get the opportunity to go play Division I ball. Not due to skill set or ability, more so due to just ignorance, being uneducated, not really understanding how to go and do something at that level. So, and that's crazy being said, especially in this digital age we live in. But like I said, I'm from a small town, man, and that's just where I come from. So I went to 5 colleges. I started my collegiate career at Shelton State Community College playing preparatory football. Now, that was an opportunity that I thought was best for myself, but nothing really came out of it. So from there, I took another opportunity to go out west and play football in a startup conference, something similar to a JUCO / preparatory, but it was kind of the same situation. So from there, I go to, Shelton State Community College to New Mexico Junior College. While I was out west, I was taking classes online at a junior college. And so, yeah. Now, when I got out there, as soon as I got to Phoenix, Arizona, because I know, some folks are like, oh man, Phoenix, Arizona. So I was in Phoenix, Arizona, and then I go to New Mexico Junior, or I take classes online at New Mexico Junior College while I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. So I was out west. Now, as soon as I got out there, the University of Alabama, where we currently are right now, called me to really see what I was doing. Like, hey man, which a lot of this is backstory stuff. We'll have to unpack. I could give you a whole movie describing my journey and how I came to be. But from New Mexico Junior College, I transferred to the University of Alabama, where I attempt to walk on, right? Spring of 2020. I don't make the team, though. I don't make the team. And meanwhile, I have people, some connections that are trying to work some things out for me and, just give me the best opportunity to play ball. Okay? Because at this point, I'm still just hungry, still thirsty for opportunity to play ball, right? To play ball. That's all. I want you to follow me as I continue to unpack my narrative on the transfer portal. So from the University of Alabama, I'm here from spring of 2020, from January 2020 all the way throughout the 2020 year in total. So spring of 21, I transferred to UAB, right? Because of football. I think I have another opportunity there. Now I had a surgery back in spring of 2020, which is which is very important in the grand scheme of my collegiate career. But anyhow, I transferred to UAB 2021 for football. I didn't play football at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. UAB, I didn't play ball there. But from there, I went to the University of Kentucky, where I did play ball for the 2022-2023 football season. Now, I know that's a headache in and of itself, just all these schools I've been to and what is this and how I get there. And All that is meaningless for now at least. Um, and like I said, maybe I'll drop another video just explaining my whole college career and how, all the movement and why and all that good stuff. But I say that to say, right, I understand and I can empathize with the athlete wanting to go from this school to that school because he feels like there's a better opportunity for him at that next school. Okay. So I just want to preface this discussion with the fact that I know and I empathize with where the athlete is coming from when they're thinking about, man, do I want to leave or do I want to stay or what's next for me or, things of that nature. So I quickly want to run through some pros and cons of the transfer portal and touch on each one and how and what I believe, or at least what I acknowledge each one to encompass as a whole. So my first pro is it gives opportunities to young athletes that may have been misled, or second chances to kids who thought they made the best decision during their first round of recruiting as a high school athlete. Being a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid making a decision, right, a pivotal decision in your early life, because ultimately that's going to play out right that's going to ring bells through the rest of your life. You have to ensure that you make a good decision, right? And that's a lot of pressure on the kid. And sometimes if that kid doesn't have the right guidance, they'll go based on variables and things that may not be the best for them in the long run. So you take a kid, he goes to a college, he makes a decision. Okay, man, hey, I want to go to USC because the weather is nice. It's Cali. It's beautiful women. It's this, it's that. It's the fast life. They're not making a decision for, okay, how do I fit in this scheme? How do I enjoy the classes I'll be taking? How do I feel like I can build community here in this place and ingratiate myself with the neighboring community, not just the institution? These are things that we don't think about as 16, 17-year-old kids, 18-year-old kids, right? So when a developing athlete has the opportunity to reflect on the things I just mentioned, maybe after their freshman season, they grow a little smarter. They're like, okay, maybe this wasn't the best fit for me. Maybe I would fit better at said place. So that's a pro. It gives them the opportunity to go to said place where they think they'll be a better fit, obviously. Not going to hit too much on that. I also want to make mention, too, when I say misled, I mean by the coaches. I'm going to be very blunt about it. I've been in situations myself where a coach is coming to my house, as well as me and my brother's house, which you all will get a chance to meet very soon, has come into our house, and then, they're recruiting you, laughing and joking with the family, having dinner with the family, and then you don't hear from them again. It's like you'll see him in the facility, won't talk to him, won't say anything to you. It's very awkward, to say the least. And so that's why I say I speak to the kid who is getting heavily recruited, but gets treated completely different when he gets to the school that he's committed or signed to. I really feel for that kid, and I think that's wrong on the coach's behalf. My second point is it grants opportunities to athletes who may be displaced by skill level, right? We've definitely seen that a lot in the past year or so, especially in the transfer portal, because you take a kid who's not necessarily supposed to be playing at the D2 level. Maybe they just didn't have the notoriety to get picked up by a D1 team. And vice versa. Maybe there was a kid who had too much notoriety at the D1 level or by the D1 coaches. He got to that level and he didn't pan out. And then we call him, we'll say he's a bust, or he sucks or he's sorry. When the truth is that kid didn't really belong at that level to begin with. So I think that it grants a perfect opportunity for kids and athletes who are displaced and not where they necessarily should be, and giving them an opportunity to transfer up, right, or transfer down. FCS to FBS, FBS to FCS, FBS to D2 or D3 to NAIA, whatever it is that you need to do to put yourself in the best position to actually compete at an adequate level with wherever you are. So that's my second point. My third pro is if things, and this is something that I feel like gets overlooked, but I've seen it. I've seen it with a teammate or so of mine at Kentucky, and I've seen it at other schools, right? Or with the amount of athletes I know, I've talked to people, and there's been movement due to things like this. But I noted if things occur like an illness in the athlete's immediate family, it grants them the opportunity to be somewhere closer to home while still being able to pursue their goals. So sometimes as athletes, you might be, as a young man, right, especially in the environments that we grow up or with the backgrounds that we have, and you know what I mean. You might be the only man in your family. And so your family is leaning on you. So I've seen situations where cats, their mom gets sick. They want to stay closer to home and play ball. Or they're away playing ball and something like that occurs and they want to get back closer to them and still play ball. And so the transfer portal obviously gives athletes the opportunity to still pursue their goals on the field. I can be closer to my mom, right? Let's say I'm from Alabama, and I'm at Florida, and my family is in Alabama, so I could transfer to Alabama. I could transfer to Auburn. I could transfer to UAB or Troy or wherever is the nearest, school to wherever you're from. It gives them that opportunity, and so I think that's a great thing. And then one of the last things I noted in terms of the pros, I said if there's a regime change on the staff that recruited you and the new staff comes in, it might be in your best interest to leave ultimately. And I don't say that to say you shouldn't fight through the adversity or you shouldn't prove yourself, right, to the new coaching staff. But what I will say is sometimes, for those of you who don't know, which ultimately you do know this, but as people, we have preferences, right? We prefer this person over that person due to the things that this person has shown us, or maybe even the things that this other person hasn't shown us. So I only say that to say when a new regime comes in with the coaching staff and they clean house, these coaches that are coming in, they already have their eyes on a cat that was at another school who they might have a relationship with, or another guy who they recruit out of high school who they have a relationship with, and he's upset or he's unhappy at his last school. And so you want to bring him in. You see it all the time, right? You've seen it with, like, literally this past season with Penix and DeBoer at Washington, right? So this type of thing, this isn't, for those of you that understand and get it, this is not something that's new to college football, right? These relationships, we all have relationships in our personal lives. These relationships are meaningful. And I mean, you can't really scold a coach for having a preference. We're all preferential. And so that just is what it is. But outside of that, right, let's just move over to the cons. So the cons, from my standpoint, are when we discuss the classroom, right? I feel it does have the potential to rob the athlete of a degree. Many times, multi-transferring athletes are solely focused on the playing level and nothing else. That was me at one point in my playing career, right? You grind, you put in so much work day in and day out because you want to play ball. But you also need the opportunity to meet the preparation for any of it to be meaningful, right? You got to get on the field ultimately. And so young athletes, right, in our minds, this is going to work out. Like, this is going to work. It's not going to not work. I'm going to the NFL. There's nothing that you can say to tell me that I'm not. And I think that's a good thing. That's a gift and a curse. It's a gift and a curse. And so with that being said, we've seen many times where multi-transferring athletes, right, they start at this school and then go to this school and then go to that and then this school. But each time you're transferring, you're losing credits. You don't have the opportunity to obtain a degree. Because at the rate at which you're transferring, you're obviously not doing what you need to be doing on the football field. And I'm speaking to my athletes too right now. I am. So the multi-transferring athletes, I feel like it's a con because it takes away and it strips them from their potential of having a degree. Also, this was something that I experienced when I was in Lexington at Kentucky. I think it also robs the athlete of building community. And this was something that I mentioned with the pros. I say that to say, when I got to Lexington, my fifth school, when I got to UK, I was lonely when I was up there. So outside, and I'm talking outside of the locker room, outside of my teammates, right? Because that was my fifth school and I was really focused on getting my degree, I didn't really build community. And I was still very focused on trying to get on the field in any capacity. I didn't have the opportunity to build community because I had been here and been there and been here and been there and been here, right? To actually make meaningful connections and relationships that might serve me in other areas of my life outside of football, right? Maybe even with classmates or professors. You know, I did the best that I could with the time that I had left. But ultimately, you don't get a chance to gain footing when you're jumping around from school to school to school. So I've seen that. I was able to experience that myself. And I also want to make mention, because this was something that in reading Game by Grant Hill, which is a book, I think it's somewhat of an autobiography, he spoke to that in his playing time at Duke. When he was in Durham, he spoke to making meaningful, lasting relationships in the Durham community, not just on Duke campus or maybe not even at North Carolina, but just in the Durham community in general. And those are relationships that he has, and he serves that community even up until the present day. So that is something I don't think that really gets looked at and understood, but that is very valuable, very extremely valuable. Because I know certain fans and people that watch the sport, they really only see you cut the TV on and you see what the game is being played, and you see touchdowns being thrown and ran and tackles being made, but you don't take into account that these are humans with lives after football and even lives during football, right? Things that they need to be a part of or things that they should consider even while still playing football. So I think that's a very, very meaningful topic or viewpoint on the transfer portal. My second point was it strips other athletes, some younger and others more deserving, of the opportunity to grab spots, especially the less fortunate athlete like myself who weren't 4 or 5 stars coming out of high school. So when you take an athlete who, let's say they were highly touted coming out of high school, they had the rankings, they had the articles, they had the stars, they had the attention, the notoriety. When you take those athletes, a lot of them, I think if you look at it, a lot of them are able to ride on what they did in high school for some time, even without producing at the collegiate level. And so I feel like because of that, it takes, when you got a guy, let's say he was a 4 or 5 star coming out of high school, and he goes to Alabama straight out of high school, Okay, well, maybe his next school is Georgia, and then his next school is USC, and then his next school is West Virginia. Like, you're taking opportunities away from younger guys coming out of high school, right? Who coaches, and I fought the coaches for this, but the coaches should be paying more attention to them. And you're taking opportunities what I feel like guys who are dogs, right? Guys who are skilled at what they do, they're elite at what they do. They just don't have the attention or the ability to gain the notice like that 4 or 5 star coming out of high school, or he was coming out of high school, but now he's coming out of his third school being Georgia. So that is something when I look on it, I'm like, okay, in that regard, the transfer portal is definitely dangerous. My third standpoint was it doesn't send the best message to the athlete that every time they run into a problem, they can just leave. Sometimes the best thing to do is stay and push through the adversity because challenge makes you better. And this was also something that I endured on my road to the University of Kentucky, right? The many days, the many hours, the long nights, the cold days, right? All this time grinding, it's character building. Ultimately, you're just building your character. And avoidance isn't always going to be the necessary route to get to where you want to go. And, sometimes it's actually buckling down, stepping through, and doing the work, right? Making the coach say, hey, I'm the guy, pushing through that. And I think in this day and age, it's like everybody's a superstar. Everybody is the man. And people don't realize that there's work to be done. You got to put the time in. You don't just show up and get spots. Like, that's not how it works. And I see it, you see it a lot, and I've been around it. Young guys, especially, that come into the locker room and they pout because they don't play. But the truth is, right, you're coming in at 17, 18-year-old to a Division I college where there's a 20, 21-year-old kid who plays that position. And then, right, let's say this kid has a kid. So now he's playing football for a different purpose. He has a different type of grit in him, a different type of dog. And that 17 to 18-year-old, right, they haven't graduated to that level of responsibility, and they think they're just supposed to show up on campus because of the relationship they have with the coach and play. That's just not how it works. So I think that can spark some delusion in the younger kids' minds, and it's a dangerous game, man. I would love to continue to unpack this. This doesn't necessarily have to be the only talk or discussion on this. In the comments, of course, leave your thoughts, right? What are your thoughts of the transfer portal? What are your thoughts on some of the things that I discussed? Maybe what are some things that I left out? All is valid. All, I'll take into consideration, man. But with as hectic as college football is becoming, right? We got to have some type of balance, and I don't know how that comes, or I don't know what's the solution to that. But I definitely believe in certain areas there should be some regulation and some form of policing. But this is just my thought on the transfer portal. Like I said, leave your comments, thoughts below. Like, share it around. If you haven't, subscribe to the channel. We'll be dropping weekly content, and we're just gonna continue to bring you the most up-to-date, best covered topics in the sport week in and week out. Till next time.